All right. So what other disgusting, filthy topic? What's next? Bring it on.
Well, the next one is something that Nathan from Kentucky wanted to chime in on.
All right.
So we've only got about 40 minutes. And I think those will probably be the last topic. And then you can go back and relax.
Oh, yes.
As you know, Kim, before I even get into the story, I'm going to play a bumper that our good friend Wheezy put together for us.
All right.
Let me see if I can find it real quick. Where the hell is it? Where is it? H-I-J-K. Where is it? Here we go. Damn it. Where is it, Kim? I'm looking for it here real quick. Where is it?
Demon and I are just going to have a moment while you're looking for that.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, damn it.
Wendell, this is your boss, your employer. I command you to come back to work. The Penske files are piling up on your desk, and your TPS reports are overdue. I will forgive your absence because you are a radio jockey, but you must kiss all 4 arms of Ganesha and bring me 1 pound of curry as penalty. I will expect your service Monday morning. Do not disappoint me, Wendell.
Like that? You like that bumper, Kim?
That was awesome.
Have you had any personal interaction with Indians?
Personal on what level?
Like just business and business.
Sure.
Have you dealt with Indians?
Sure.
Have you noticed any, what do you want to call, similar traits between the Indian customers or people that you've dealt with?
Well, I'm probably not going to be nearly as politically incorrect as you want me to be. I will say they're extremely direct, and they will keep repeating themselves and saying the same thing until they get what they want, or until they hear what they want to hear.
Sure.
Other than that, like I said, you want me to say something terrible, but I don't necessarily have anything.
I'm not asking you to say something terrible. I'm just asking you your opinion.
Probably no worse than anybody else, but they definitely have attention to money and price. And they don't get pushed off that topic very easily. They'll keep on until they get what they want.
Sure. All right. Fair enough. I would say that describes it pretty perfectly. All right. Well, anyway, I worked for some Indians for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
And because I worked for Indians from India, these were not, U.S.-born people who were born to Indian.
Just to clarify, dot, not feather.
Correct. I wanted to study them to make sure that I understood their culture. And it's not because of the race or because their skin is brown or anything else. I wanted to understand their culture. Mm-hmm. And I understood their culture so I could deal with them better on a day-to-day business level.
Makes sense.
And I think that once I understood them and understood the psychology and the ideology behind being an Indian, I was able to deal with them better.
Sure. And that makes sense. That's just good business sense, is to understand the people you're doing business with.
Exactly. So. Well, our good friend Nathan from Kentucky wanted to call into the show, and he has called in. So we're going to hear from Nathan.
Fantastic.
Hail and kill, caller. Nathan, you're on the air.
Hail and kill, fuckies. How you doing?
Excellent.
Hey,
now, how do you rate Kim's co-hosting abilities tonight?
Be nice.
It's been Yeah, it's been good. It's been a quick show. I mean, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're only half hour away till the end of the show. It went very fast.
Yeah, it's been great. It's good that she's back and good health, and so it's very, very good to have her back.
Thanks,
sure.
Nathan.
Now, you had an encounter with Indians this week that you text me about. And
it's a quick story, but yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Now, I don't want to take up everybody's time, but there was just a real quick story about a local pizzeria here. So,
all right, go ahead.
Want me to jump right in? Okay.
Yeah, go right ahead. Now, you live
okay.
in the Lexington, Kentucky area.
Yeah, just south of Lexington.
Sure, but you still live in the area, and Lexington, Kentucky is one of the very few major cities that Kentucky has. I mean, obviously there's Lexington and Louisville, and maybe I guess you can consider Hopkinsville one of the metropolitan areas.
Yeah, Owensboro or Paducah. Yeah, there's only really a few.
Yeah, but outside of that, Kentucky is not a very metropolitan state. It's very rural, and a lot of farmland and a lot of mountains and a lot of little burgs and towns. So you kind of live in one of the top two metropolitan areas of Kentucky, right?
Yes. So we do.
Okay.
We have a lot of Indians around here, though. So
sure.
You'd be surprised.
Now, what is the attraction for Indians to live in Kentucky?
Well, they come in and they buy up a lot of these small businesses, a lot of gas stations, convenience stores, pizza parlors, things like that. And they really kind of, that's I mean, it's the American dream type thing. They come in and they buy a business and they want to, better themselves and better their families and all that jazz.
But they don't really mesh with the Larry the Cable Guy persona that people around the rest of the country would envision when you talk about Kentucky.
No, not really. And most do pretty much stick out, but there are a few. There's a gas station up by where we used to live that had was owned by a whole family full of Indian guys, and they were awesome. They were great. I mean, you go in there and they were always really friendly and and always asking about your family and your kids and but for the most part that's the worst part. When they come in and buy up a business, they're not very friendly.
Sure.
For the most part. And that's kind of what the situation is with this pizzeria. This pizzeria is a chain called Giovanni's, which are all over eastern Kentucky. And it was recently, maybe last year sometime, was bought up by an Indian guy.
Okay.
And he came in and did some changes and kind of, changed things around. And right off the bat, once again, you can always tell it's the customer service. Like, the first thing is, you come up to the counter and the guy's really brief with you, and just kind of hurry up, put your order in. They're just not very friendly for the most part.
Hurry up and put your order in. We don't have much time for this.
Exactly. But I happened to stop by there last week, earlier this week, and didn't place the order. I just went in and placed the order, so I had to sit and wait. And there were the Indian guy who ran the place was not there. There were just two kind of white college age kids who were working there.
So they appeared to be American to you.
Oh, they were definitely American.
Okay, I'm just asking the question. Go ahead.
No, they were definitely just white American kids, and they were running the place. And there weren't too many people in there. There was a couple people sitting over in the buffet area. And there was a couple, maybe mid-20s age couple that was sitting there, a man and a woman. And they had the buffet. They were doing their thing, just eating. I'm waiting for the food to come out. And they went up when they got done eating, and they went up to the counter. And, the guy, just went to the counter and said 2 buffets and 2 drinks. And it was like $18 or whatever. So he whips out his card, and he's like, "Oh, I left the tip on the table. Is that okay?" And the guy working behind the counter said, "Actually, that's perfect." He said, "We'll actually get the tip that way." And
what?
The guy was like, "Yeah." Yeah, so the customer was like, huh? And he's like, oh, yeah. He said, if you put the tip on the credit card, our boss keeps the money and we don't get the tip.
That's terrible.
So he said,
Oh, my
if you
God.
if you left a $5 bill, we'll actually get that money and actually get the tip. So I guess at the end of the night, the Indian guy goes through and tallies up the credit card receipts and doesn't give the people who actually work there the tip money they were given by the customers.
So the owner keeps the tip on the credit card.
Yeah, I guess
Wow.
so. That's what he told him. 'Cause I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow. And my first thought was what you've always told us about how cheap Indians are.
Sure.
And how they they will basically sell their children into slavery for 50 cents. And so that was just my initial thought. And then the guy was so taken aback by it. He was like, what? He's like, what do you mean you'll get the tip? And it's like, but evidently that's what. And that at that restaurant with that guy, that's what happens. I feel like he doesn't give the employees their tips.
Nice.
So
Wow.
Now, has this influenced you at all to whether you frequent the place or if you choose to leave a tip, that you leave a cash tip, or do you choose not to go there anymore?
Well, I almost never have cash anymore. I don't think a lot of people do that nowadays with everything's on a card. But I really don't like the places that get bought up by like Indians. Like I said, are really I kind of not to sound like an asshole, but like I said, the customer service is really bad, and you don't want to go there. And there are very few places. Like when I first moved here, there was a gas station right up the street, and it was owned by an Indian guy, and he was always in there, and he was just the biggest asshole. And at a certain point, I was like, you know what? I'm not coming here anymore. I mean, you come in here and you come in here to spend your money, and you just treat me like a piece of shit. And it's like, I'm trying to give you my money.
Well, yeah, you're not the only gas station in town, so.
Yeah, there's one right across the street. So
Yep.
at some point, I'm like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm going across the street. I mean, it's like there's only so long you could be treated like a piece of crap before you finally just say, well, you know what? I can take my money somewhere else. They have the same sodas and candy and gas across the street as you do, and it's just the same distance away. So I just try to avoid those places, but which I know it sounds hateful or whatever. But
so will you go back to the pizza shop?
I really don't even like that kind of that brand of pizza. I don't even like that much, to be honest with you. I mean, it's really greasy. It's a really greasy, nasty type of pizza, and I don't really go there very often. And went there to get salads because they have salads. And the guy told me, I go to this counter and I'm like, well, I need this salad. I need this salad without this, and this. And he's like, well, we can't take that off. They come prepackaged, and I can't take that stuff out. And I was like, well, I've been coming here forever, and it's like, never told me that before, but I guess under new management, they don't, allow you to select what you want or whatever. But I don't know. Like I said, I hate to sound like an asshole, but for the most part, when Indians buy something, the customer service is horrible. and it's just the truth. I mean, we have everything, a lot of things around here, hotels, gas stations, little, groceries and stuff like that are owned by Indians. And is that the same thing up there? You have a lot of Indians up there in the northern Indiana, Chicago area?
Yes.
Yeah, there's plenty of them.
But Nathan, that doesn't make you an asshole. That just you're sharing an observation. You're not being an asshole. I mean, the fact that there's a commonality and you're stating it doesn't make you an asshole.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the truth. And like I said, the one exception is, like I said, there was a gas station up by our old house, where the guys were great. And there's a whole family of them that lived right up the street, and they walked down, and they were really great. But for the most part, they're very profit oriented, and they're just, come in here, give me your money, and get out and leave me alone, And so when there's lots of options, it's very easy to just say, well, to hell with you then. We'll just go somewhere else.
Exactly.
So there's a Speedway right across the street I can go to that, is just as good, and they give you all kinds of reward points and free stuff and all that. So, but no, just couldn't help but obviously be reminded of the Indian tales there, and just add my 2 cents in and validate what Neeley has said all along about the cheapness of our red dotted friends.
Our red dotted friends. Nice.
Well, I'll get off here and let you get some other stories in before the end of the show. But hail and kill, fuck you, pal, and hand job.
Nice. All right.
Bye, Nathan.
There goes Nathan. All right, getting back to the Indian tales. The husband of a 10, what's wrong with me? The husband of a 16-year-old Pakistani girl who was murdered by her family for marrying him vowed Thursday to do whatever it took to get justice for his young wife. 16 years old.
There's so many, I see so many of these stories, and these women get killed no matter what. She got killed because she got married. I read one the other week that she got killed because she refused to marry. They get killed because they want to go to school. It just, ugh.
Zeenat Bibi was set on fire.
Yeah, that's their modus. That's their modus operandi. That's usually the way it goes, is they get set on fire.
Right. She was set on fire Wednesday in Pakistani's cultural capital of Lahore. And that's an interesting Lahore.
Okay.
A little over a week after she wed 20-year-old motorcycle mechanic Hassan Khan against the wishes of her family. Her mother, Perveen Bibi, has admitted to killing, though the details of the brutal murder remain unclear. Early reports suggested she had been burnt alive, though police now say she may have been asphyxiated first, with a postmodern report not expected until later this month.
Well, that's all they have to do is check and see if she has soot in her lungs. If she had soot in her lungs, then they burned her alive.
Sure. Bibi's charred remains were buried by her new husband's family before dawn after none of the relatives sought to claim her body. Speaking to AFP on Thursday, a visibly distraught Khan said, "I'm determined to continue a legal proceeding against the family. I am after them, and my family is supporting me. It is my desire now to bring her to justice. If accused, the condemned are..." Let's see, how should let me put this. If the accused are condemned, it will bring calm and peace to my soul. Does that really make a difference? If somebody gets killed and somebody is quote unquote brought to justice, is that going to say, "Oh, it's all good now"? You know, I lost my wife or girlfriend or whatever the case may be, but at least they paid for it.
Yeah, no, I don't think that justice is ever as satisfying as you think it's going to be, or as you hope it to be. I think that void, that loss, that anger is still there. I mean, you may get a momentary, like, yes, we got him back, or, you know, yes, they got it too, or whatever, but it doesn't, it never fills the original void from what happened.
I agree. Khan, who said he had met his wife while they were students at a high school, also just suggested that Perveen had been helped in the murder by her brother and son and was covering up for them. The case has drawn widespread outrage, even in a country used to so-called honor killings.
Ah, yes, the honor killings. That's what I was talking about. If a woman marries, or if she decides not, you know, if it's an arranged marriage and she refuses, then basically her family has the right to set her on fire and stone her and drag her through the streets and everything else.
Right. Which has accounted for hundreds of deaths over the year. It was also a third such case involving burning over a 3-month period. The AFP reported a family home was closed and locked Thursday as neighbors expressed their shock. Zeenat had taught the Quran to local children, and the mother of one told the AFP her daughter was frightened after the killing. Before sleeping, she asked many questions. Why was my teacher killed? Why did her mom kill her? Said Ronnie Beebe, who shared a common last name with the Znotz family on her 10-year-old Maham. These people with their names. I said, don't worry. You are a beloved daughter until you marry the wrong guy, that is.
Exactly.
Cultural of impunity. Pakistan amended its criminal code in 2005 to prevent men who killed female relatives escaping punishment by pardoning themselves as an heir of the victim.
Pardoning themselves.
They pardon themselves.
Well, that's a nice little That's a nice little built-in feature to have.
But it is left to the judge's discretion to describe whether to impose a prison sentence when other relatives of the victim forgive the killer, a loophole which critics say is still exploited.
Wow.
It's like, well, you don't have to go to jail. They said you're good to go.
Wow.
Leading opposition Senator Sherry Reham, Rehman, who is also a prominent women's rights activist, called for the government Thursday to pass a long-awaited bill aimed at amending the law. What is the reason for the delay? 3 girls have been burnt to death. This is a scary new trend. It's not as though we didn't have thousands being killed before. It's not as though the law will put an end to it, but the state must put its full force into addressing the issue, she said. Raham added that Prime Minister Nawaz, N-A-W-A-Z, Nawaz, had promised to push through legal reform after a documentary highlighted the issue, won an Oscar in February, but had failed to act. I think they are pandering to the religious party, she said, referring to Pakistan's Islamist opposition parties who has considerable influence beyond their representation in the parliament, where they hold around 5% of the seats. Those who would kill in the name of honor have increasing impunity. They can see that despite public anger, its hollow halls of power are turning a blind eye. So basically what they're saying is that even though that, people find this despicable and against the law and whatnot, they still honor the traditions.
Well, I think too, it's the sickness of lethargy. I mean, we have it here too. I mean, granted, we're not setting our girls on fire or anything like that, but even the stuff, I mean, especially living, being from Chicago, I mean, I hate to say it, but if it's not in your backyard and it doesn't affect you, you tend to, turn a blind eye. You're too busy trying to carve out a living and take care of your family or your loved ones or whatever. And as much as, you pause for a moment and your heart breaks, you're not exactly going to necessarily come out of your pocket or go out of your way to champion a cause.
Yeah.
And it sucks. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it's what happens.
Sure. Well, one last story before we get out of here, Kim. Believe it or not, over 5 hours has gone by. This again has to do with that filthy culture. Mm-hmm. From cleaning corpses to sex with strangers, widow rituals fuel disease in Africa.
Widow rituals.
Widow rituals.
Okay.
When Clarice's husband died of malaria last year in, I'm not even going to say this word, but it's Cameroonian, Cameroonian.
Okay.
Cameroonian city of Douala, Douala. She was kicked out of her home by his family and forced to marry his brother. So your husband died, his brother is available, you just marry him.
Yeah, well, yeah, again, in many of these cultures other than our own, that's just I hate it, but that's the way it is. I mean, cattle are more valuable than women in a lot of those cultures.
I agree. After having sex with her new husband, the 34-year-old discovered she had syphilis.
Ooh.
A sexually transmitted...
Wait, was she hot? Did he use a condom?
Yeah, did he use a condom? Was she hot? A sexually transmitted disease that can lead to blindness and stroke if untreated. He accused me of infidelity. He called a meeting of our families and told them I was a prostitute. She said tearfully, fiddling with her gold wedding ring from her first marriage. Everyone accused me of being a witch and said it was me who had killed my husband. My stepmother threatened to kill me, added Clarice, who fled with her daughter to the outskirts of Douala, where she lives in an old wood shack on the riverbank. She lived in a van down by the river.
I was just gonna say, in a van down by the river.
Exactly. Millions of widows in the sub-Saharan Africa are left destitute after being disheartened and robbed of their property. Women's rights campaigners have said ahead of International Widows Day on Thursday. So again, we got somebody like a Hillary Clinton out there talking about women's rights, et cetera, in this country. But over in India, Africa, all these other countries, these women are being beaten, they're killed, they're set on fire, they're, forced to marry, the brothers of their deceased husbands, they're put into slavery, et cetera, et cetera. We don't have it so bad here.
Yeah, and yeah, taken as a whole, I can tell you, I definitely would not have survived had I been born into one of those countries.
Right.
I probably wouldn't have made it. As soon as I was able to talk, I probably would have been set on fire.
Many, like Clarice, are abused and exploited by their in-laws, forced to undergo cleansing rituals or marry one of their husband's relatives in a practice known as widow inheritance.
Well, yeah, because they're seen as property. I mean, once they marry the son, that the son's family is like, we own you. You're going to do whatever we tell you to do.
You're our sacred cow now.
Yep, exactly. Well, the cow lives better.
Sure. Traditional cleansing rituals are intended to rid a widow of her husband's spirit. In some communities, widows are forced to have sex with a stranger.
And then they wonder how they end up with syphilis.
Right. In others, they have to clean their husband's corpse and then drink the dirty water.
Wow. Like straight up sin eater.
Yeah.
Like just, wow.
Yeah. Widow inheritance, cleansing rites, and the eviction of women from their homes are fueled the transmission of HIV across the continent, and many have contributed to the spread of the world's worst Ebola outbreak in West Africa, experts say.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I remember it's just been in the past few months that they've finally said that was under control and it's no longer...
So is ISIS, right? According to Obama, well, ISIS is under control.
Totally under control.
The JV team.
Yeah. We know exactly where all of them are at all times.
Sure.
Did I mention we're doomed as a species? Have I mentioned that tonight?
Here, wash your husband's dead body down. Now drink his bathwater.
Seriously, that's... Oh, come on. Come on. You've got to be fucking kidding me.
When are we going to agree that people from Africa and India are just savages due to their ideology?
But we're savages because we eat cows.
Yeah, okay.
Just FYI.
All right. Women are damned if they go through the rituals and damned if they don't. If you accept these inhumane, degrading rituals, you run the risk of disease. If you don't, you are condemned for not saying goodbye to your husband and are abused and ostracized.
Man.
Widows across the Africa are often kicked out of their homes by their in-laws because national and community laws do not allow them to inherit their husband's property, or because women do not know they have rights to the land. In Cameroon's capital, Berthe sits outside of her flimsy house watching her two sons play football as she recalls the beautiful home they lived in before her husband's death. After the funeral last year, her husband's brother and sister asked Berthe if they could see the deeds for the house. Without thinking, the newly widowed mother handed them over. A year later, she was told the house had been sold.
Wow.
When I threatened to complain, they beat me nearly to death, saying I was just a poor woman married to a rich man.
Do you hear that, American women? Go make your man a sandwich right now. Go make them a sandwich and service them properly and do their laundry and stuff like that.
Berthe now carries facial scars and walks with a limp.
Wow. Well, guys will probably use a condom with her from now on.
Sure. Fearing the consequences, many widows decide not to pursue their land rights, and yet widows are entitled to live on their late husband's land until they die. And their children, not the in-laws, are the legal heirs, she said. With no income or possessions, widows are forced out of their homes or are vulnerable to rape and may resort to selling sex to survive, putting them at greater risk with HIV.
That's just, as you're reading all this to me, though, with my new perspective on things, as brutal as it is to even just be female in other parts of the world, what's nuts is they wake up in the morning and they find joy in something.
Yeah.
They find joy in the sunrise. They find joy in the breeze. They find joy in their children. I just, it really, it kind of puts things in perspective a little bit.
Well, I might get ass raped today, but God damn it, I'm happy I'm alive.
Well, that's what that's what occurs to me is, my God, I don't know that I'd even want to be alive. Like,
Sure.
I think of, the ritual and, how they used to have the restrictions in China that, if you had more than 2 kids or whatever,
They'd
it
have
was,
to kill
it
one.
was it was bad. And,
Sure.
the girls always got abandoned because it was better to have boys than
Right.
girls. And it's like, Jesus, it would almost be better to be drowned in the river at birth than
Right.
to grow up in an environment like that.
Sure, I agree. Many women in Africa are widowed very young after marrying much older men. If they cannot support their children, they may in turn marry off their own daughters early.
Wow.
There is a vicious cycle of widowhood and early marriage. Impoverished among widows is a major factor in perpetuating child marriage, she added. So basically, out of necessity, they just go, you know what? This will bring me a little prosperity. My kid is old enough to marry. Here's an older gentleman who's got, some means. I'll let him marry her and maybe she'll have a better life.
Well, another observation is we're talking so much about widows. Apparently, it's not too easy to be a man over there either.
Well, apparently not. But the thing is with disease running rampant over there, seemingly.
Well, yeah, and then they have, like these crazy, like, spells and stuff where they say, like, here, rub this herb and hop on one foot and, and do this and you'll be fine. And it's like, no, you clearly needed some antibiotics
Sure.
is what you needed there. You didn't need to hop on one foot and rub this herb on your forehead.
Right. There are more than 258 million widows worldwide, nearly 10% of whom live in sub-Saharan Africa. 10% of 258 million?
Wow.
That's what, 25 million?
Yeah, that's too much math for me.
25 million widows.
Wow.
Around 1 in 10 African women are widows. Yet there is little data on their lives of well-being. Widows are often overlooked because they do not know their rights or feel compelled to stay silent about these abuses they face. Widows may not see the rituals as violating their rights, but as a normal way to honor their husbands. So again, it's this ideology. Mm-hmm. Ideology just kills everything.
Yep.
Even if I want to speak out, they know there will be no repercussions. While many African countries such as Burkina Faso,
easy for you to say.
Yeah, Burkina, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, and Ghana have laws to protect widows. These are often trumped in rural areas by customary laws, campaigners say.
Well, yeah, once you get out into the outskirts, and it's lack of education. You
Sure.
get out into the outskirts, and you have these tribal chieftains or whatever, and they call the shots, and they don't. It's it's kind of like gun control over here. People don't that don't give a shit about the laws. It doesn't matter what laws you pass; they're going to do whatever the fuck
they're
they
going
want
to do
anyway.
because this is my belief, and I don't care. The laws be damned.
Exactly.
Widows' rights activists across Africa are now pushing to change harmful cleansing rituals. Rather than having sex with a relative or her late husband, many widows in Zimbabwe offer a bowl of water if they want to stay with the family. In Sierra Leone, women are encouraged to wash stones instead of corpses during the Ebola outbreak to avoid spreading the virus. Traditional cleansing rites helped spread Ebola until they were halted and changed. There is no reason these alternative mourning rites could not become common. Several civil societies across sub-Saharan Africa work to inform widows of their rights, supporting the inheritance claim, and provide refuge to those evicted or ostracized. But Marthe Shantala, president of the Cameroon charity Widows in Distress, said governments too often neglect widows and ignore the hardships they face. All widows have the same problem. They are marginalized, stigmatized, and abused, she said. The death of the widow begins with the death of the husband.
Yep.
So
exactly.
so once the all valuable male is gone, you're worthless. Get out of here. So there you go, Kim. Don't you feel much better about yourself as a woman?
I feel amazing right now. Yeah, it doesn't. Not too shabby being an American gal.
No, not at all. You may suffer the atrocities of being involved with things that where somebody actually calls you a bitch at work. You bitch.
Are you kidding me? That's a daily occurrence.
So anyway, it happens. All right. Well, Kim, I appreciate you taking the time to come down here and hang out with me at the CMS studio and be a part of the show. Believe it or not, that 6 hours has blown by.
It has. Thanks for having me.
Man,
it's always a great time.
What a worthy co-host.
And thanks for all the CMS fans putting up with me tonight. I appreciate it. And all the awesome callers.
Well, it was fun.
It was fun. We always have fun.
I enjoyed it. But you're welcome back again.
Thank you very much.
And I appreciate your input and your forthrightness, et cetera, et cetera. And I want to thank my good friend Don Dawkin from calling in. You enjoyed that, right?
I did enjoy that. Are you kidding me? I sat here like a giddy little 15-year-old. I was like, yeah. I sat here like a little fangirl the whole time, covering my mouth so I didn't say anything.
Sure. And as you know, and it'll be spread out all over the place, that this is the official announcement that the original lineup of the most popular lineup of Dawkin is happening.
Wow.
And Don made that clear here on the show.
It's super cool. I know, from looking at chat and stuff, I know, some people are a little bummed that there's not necessarily any U.S. dates. But
but
keep the faith. We'll see what happens.
You never know. It could happen. It could happen. So anyway, it's been a fun show. I appreciate, again, you taking time out. And, of course, all of our friends and fans for calling into the show and being a part of the show tonight. And we'll come back and do it all over again.
Absolutely.
So any last words there, Kim?
No.
Nice. All right, well, we're going to get out of here. We're going to leave you with a request for a band called Masquerade. Are you familiar with them?
I am not, but I'm about to be.
And so we're going to listen to some Masquerade to take us out of the show tonight. So, again, I will be back next week. Chris will be back, and we will be doing the debut of our good friend Sammy Lee's new release for Red Rain.
Awesome. I will definitely be tuned in for that.
All right. And we'll do this thing all over again. So until next Saturday night, this is Neeley along with my very good friend
Kim in Chicago.
Nice. And we'll see you.
Night.
Good evening, Kim and Neeley, and all the Classic Metal Show listeners. This is Serena, and I'm called to request a song by a band from Sweden called Masquerade. They released their self-titled album back in 1992, and that was when pretty much everything was coming to an end. Yet they managed to come up with a very fine work. To some, it might have been, or it might sound overproduced nowadays, but I'd rather have an overproduced album than one that doesn't sound very well. You might like it, you might not, but all I can say is behind this album and behind this song, you can tell that there's great musicianship. Tony Johansson has a great voice, and Thomas Gison is a great guitar player. It might sound like TNT-ish and typical melodic Scandinavian, and I really like it, so I hope you guys like it. The title of the song is Our Time Has Come.